It is the artist's task to turn our lives inside out and upside down, and to persuade us at the same time that we're enjoying ourselves. It's a question of taking what has been created and uncreating it, or a word I like very much, decreating it, so we can see how it works, so we can put it together again, and hopefully in a better way. The work of a really good artist always reminds me of Gerard Manley Hopkins, the way he tore language asunder and put it together again with music, meaning, a strange togetherness and excitement. And I wrote a poem about Christ as artist, but really thinking about Hopkins, and I used the words something like Hopkins. Our intent depressive scholar who gnawed on the knuckle bone of words for sustenance, because God scorched his bones with nearness, so that he cried out with a loud voice from the entangling, thorny underbrush of language. Now that's poetry to do with words, with language. The strange thing is that this is where Claire comes in, not as Christ, yet. We won't crucify her for the time being, but certainly as a form of redeemer of objects, if I might put it like that. Objects, places and people, decreating them, putting them together again. And obviously language is a huge part of what she is doing. Take your ordinary, everyday, ugly fish. The gurnard, G-U-R-N-A-R-D. We in Achill used to call, if I'm right, the gunner. A much easier word to say than the gurnard. An ugly fish. It has a large angular head, and it has 3 finger-like walking rays in front of the pectoral fin. I got that on Google. He's a bony old geezer, is the way I would put it myself. His name is an ugly name, the Gurnard, and it comes, I also, and my alter ego here will correct me if I'm wrong, comes from the French word grogner, which means to grunt. And it's the sound that the gunner actually makes when you catch it and draw it out of the water. It makes a horrific sound. But here he is in this exhibition. Where is he? Is there behind? Here he's made with beautiful collectible stamps, am I right? With pages from a diary of 1914, declaring the start of a world war. How suitable that the gunner should be looked at like that. And I will never, and I hope you never will, look at a gurnard or a gunner with the same negative feelings again. Mightn't put them on the table yet though. There's Kim Bay. There are two, I think, of Kim Bay. The Fisherman's Rest, which is this lovely one with the blue roof, made from collage pieces. But look at the colours of that. Unreal, you might think. The colours are unreal. But I do remember a day when I was poking through the quarry, looking for amethysts, and failing to find them, of course. And somebody shouted, and we turned around, and we saw the bay, the beach, covered with the little beautiful electric blue sailors by the wind. Do you know those little jellyfishy things? Beautiful blue. And the whole beach was covered with them. And that is the blue that is actually on the top of the Fisherman's Rest cottage there. So I saw the entire beach covered in that colour. So I think what Claire is doing here is, as I say, bringing life to something, new life to something. There's the mission, the colony, here behind me. My granny had a thing about that because we were militant Catholics and we knew that the people here were militant Protestants. So with all due respect to anybody who's a Protestant or a Catholic here, she used to say, hum, going around the house, sing it out. Because it's at the base of the mountain of Slievemore, she'd say, Slievemore, Slievemore, you are standing there. with your head so high and your sides so bare. Some day, please God, you will surely fall and bury the colony jumpers all. So here we have the redemption of all of that. And for me, this actually gave me a shock. Music associated with that place. Pieces of music. I would never actually walk through that area again without hearing birds singing, without a sense of music to it. And this is what I'm talking about, redemption, decreating and coming back with something new. It's very, very unusual. There's our friend in the corner, Heinrich Böll, which I think is an extremely powerful piece. It's, for me, the strongest piece, I think, bar one, in the entire exhibition. There's a couple of characters around the walls here. There's Heinrich Böll, there's Robert Henry, there's Alan, the pub landlord. Who is that?
Alan Guilty.
Alan Guilty. Oh, that's Alan Guilty. All right. And there's a fella called Tom McNamara.
He's gone.
He's another landlord, ex-landlord. I was going to call us all the Rogues Gallery, but I'd be scared just here. I didn't. Heinrich Böll made of words, newspaper articles, excerpts from Gisela Holster's very fine book on Heinrich Böll, and Gisela is here. I mean, is that decreation and recreation again in language? It's incredible. It's beautiful. Okay, Robert Henry. I think he was just before my time. I never met him, but he's around the corner there. It's a very strange representation of him. I always thought he was a very serious, heavy sort of a gentleman, but there's something dandyish and light and lovely about him in that particular portrait. Here we go, Tom, you'll excuse me, and this Tom McNamara is around the corner here, in body and in whatever else you'd call it. I think it's a wonderful portrait of you. You're beautifully and engagingly.
As always.
Your fine figure is dealt with wonderfully. But most of all, it's mixed media that tell of his coming from America to Achill. I mean, we used to talk about Tom the Yank in the early days. And the words that are there, that are used of Tom, are taken from his trip from America, as far as I can gather. And of course, this place is the Bowley House in Keel, where he was always a benevolent spirit. Patron, he was a great patron. He'd come out when you were almost satiated with beautiful food in his great big apron, and he'd come up and say, was everything all right? And I'd say, no, the lobster was off, Tom, as usual. We used to have a wonderful time in the Bowley House. I don't think he's going to come back and start it all over again. And then there is me. Now, my living has been made of words, and my blood is thick with letters, with a little Jameson mixed in. And I know the words and articles and reviews from which Claire has put me together again. So I know the legitimacy of what Claire is actually doing. I know where it's coming from. I feel where it's coming from. I see where it's coming from. I like the delicacy and the wealth of the colours that she has put into me in particular. And it applies to all the other things too. I'm a blue person. It's all right. I think I'm not too well organised in blue, because I'm scared, you know. We have a designer here, dressed in that. But for me, blue is blue for spirit, and blue for sorrow, if you like, which could have been the case with me, sorrow and angst. But you see, what I do with my words is I write them all down, get the misery and the woe out of myself, put them into language, into shapes and forms, and sell them to you, so that you get my pain and sorrow. and I get away with it. I'm going to stop. I had a poem that I was going to quote. I won't. I'll just give the beginning of it. It's a new poem, which was not inspired, but when I saw the reproductions, I said, oh, that's very close to what I'm actually writing about. So I'll give you the first little bit of it. The poem is called Constellations. It's about the stars. But I say, begin. There is no word for the newspaper page where my father cut the head and gutted out the innards of the 12 mackerel he had caught, wrapping the package tight with twine and the brown blood showing through. No words for the sound the swift will make, swooping through the high, narrow streets of old Siena, where we visited with the saint, Caterina Benincasa, who had seen the guardian angels and said, every step of the way to heaven will be heaven. So it goes on to be a poem about words, a poem about poems and about the creative process itself. I think we're standing and viewing, and I think it's the first time Claire has really done a full exhibition. We are standing in the presence of something new, unusual, and to me very, very exciting. It's a unique exhibition. It's wholly promising. The craft and the technique are both new and surprising. The wealth of vision is astonishing. The awareness of what she is doing and the intellectual content of what she's working towards is also astonishing, very special. I commend this work to you, absolutely heartily. And I do even more than that. I commend Sean Cannon for spotting this, and the Western Light for putting on, for helping to promote this work, and for the great initiative that this day's venture is. I think it's actually a special day for Achill and for Sean, and I hope for Claire. And then may I finally welcome Claire from across the water, not in Ishpigel, but further afield. First of all to Ireland, and then to Louisburg, where she now is, and of course most especially to Achill.
Thank you.